Hello and welcome to the channel. For part 9 in the series of bringing back to life Barney, the 1981 Honda CT110 Trail. In this video I'll be dismantling the front forks, changing the fork seals, the fork boots, fork gaiters and the springs. If that's something you're interested in seeing, as usual, stick around and I'll get straight into it. Are you lot interested in seeing that? You're no longer tiny ducklings, are you? Look at the size of you. First thing I'll do, put the bike on the centre stand, remove the front wheel and the front fender, the front mudguard. I've found there's no need to jack up the bike. When you remove the front wheel spindle, take the weight off the front wheel. That allows the bike to sit down on the back wheel so the front's supported. And there's no need to remove the speedo cable and the front brake cable. Simply slide the brake hub to the side and the front wheel can come off easily. That's a handy trick, especially if you're stuck somewhere and you're just changing a flat tyre. Now I'll simply remove the 4 bolts, take off the front mudguard, the front fender. Well, there are oil drain plugs here and on the other side, but I doubt if there's any oil left in these forks, but I'll give it a try. As I thought, nothing. Now simply slacken the pinch bolt. I've already slackened that. And also remove the top bolt. I'm going to work on one leg at a time, especially if you haven't done this before. Do one at a time. That means that if you're unsure, you can always look at the other fork leg for how it assembles. And also the headlamp and the headlamp brackets will stay in one place. You won't need to worry about supporting them. The fork leg should simply slide out. If it doesn't want to, like this one, what we can do is put a wedge in the bottom yoke, the bottom triple tree there, expand the clamp there. That'll help us. Well, I made this bolt to help reassemble the forks, but I'll be able to use it now to disassemble. I'll screw that into the top and give it a tap. See if I can't help it on its way. Well, I've drained what little bit of oil that was left in there. I can't put that on the ground because if I do, the ducks will think it's something to eat. So I'll move that out away somewhere. And now we've got that. I'm just looking at this fork leg. And yeah, there's rust at the top there, but the most important part is the rust and pitting where the seal moves. The seal looks quite grubby in there, so I'll clean it out and get back to you. I'm hoping that's in focus. So we just need to remove the circlip or the snap ring. I've cleaned out the dirt as best I can. The holes are still a bit full. I don't know if these circlip pliers are going to do the trick. There we go. That's the fork dismantled. Well, if you look in the manual, there are 1,000,001 places to measure for wear on the fork. On the piston, the bushing, the fork stonge, the fork stanchion just goes on and on. Most people won't have a micrometer, but at the very least you can do, and also have a check that the fork stanchion is straight. If you've played pool, you'll know that the quickest way to tell that your pool cue, your pool stick is straight, is to roll it on a flat surface. So it's not for me to suggest you get into your kitchen and use your kitchen workbench, your kitchen worktop, but whatever works best for you. If there is a bend in the fork, it will usually be just below where the bottom yoke clamps to. You can see the witness marks there on this old fork leg. I've made up this old stand and I can put a dial gauge on there and check for run out. But this is a bent one, and if you can see, if I hold something next to it, let's have a look just how bent this is. So, hope you can see that. So that one is like a banana, and that's an old fork leg. So I swapped over, this is my fork tube that I've just removed, and even just as a rough guide like that, you can see, looks to be straight as an arrow. Well, I've cleaned up the rust there as best I can. Doesn't do anything to help the fork performance, but it helps with reassembling. So I've put a slight amount of oil on there. Slowly put the oil seal on. Slide him down. Trying to do it so that you can see with the camera. That's pushing in pretty easily. And what I found is that you can use the old oil seal. I've got a nylon hammer to tap it. Tap the seal in place, so we need it in far enough so that we can get the circlip in place. And the main thing with the circlip, it's important that we put it in. I've left that on the pliers so there's no confusion, but we need it with the sharp edge facing up. Very important, the sharp edge facing up. If you place it the other way with the curved edge facing up, there's a chance it can become dislodged. You'll end up in a world of pain. Not far enough down yet. It's important that this is seated correctly. Looks to be. There we go. Well, looking at the spring, we've got the fork boot, the state of that, the fork gaiter. We have the guide at the top there, and there's a ring what fits in that. With the spring, ensure that the closed coils go to the top. And this is a good reason why you don't buy these cheap parts. Look at that spring. There's no progressive change in it. Probably going to be no good. So I'll just have to try it and see how it works. So, there we have it. Just a matter of sliding the leg back in now. Well, I've left the screwdriver in there, wedged in there. That should make it a little bit easier to fit. And as I said before, I've made this bolt, and what that does, it allows you to pull the fork tube up there. Because of these models with the external springs, it's difficult to push the fork tube up into the yokes, up into the triple trees. So what you can do, as it slides up, what I'll do, and that will allow me to pull it into place. That's got it. Now obviously we will need to fill some oil in there. Common oil to use, automatic transmission fluid. I'll be using a heavier weight oil because I'm a heavier weight person myself. Well, some of you may have spotted my not so deliberate mistake. What I did, this guide there was quite pitted and rusty, the original one, so I cleaned up some spare ones that I had and used that. Thought it would look much nicer, but what I didn't realise, this one is off a later model fork with the internal spring, and you can see it's different. It doesn't have the boss there for these different style fork boots. So the leg's got to come back out again and swap that over. I'll leave this mistake in. Hopefully it will prevent anyone else making the same mistake that I did. Well, that looks better, and that's one down, one to go. Well, this is the sight that greeted me when I took the fork gaiter off the left side fork leg. A broken spring. So as I've said before, just when you see everything, you see something new. So maybe these cheap knockoff springs, although they're not great, they've got to be better than that. And also this fork tube, fork stanchion, whatever, it's heavily pitted. And what that will do, as I said before, it will rip the seal and also cause a leak. So I'm going to change that for some other parts that I've got. I double checked the fork oil capacity, and it varies depending on which manual you read. The 85 manual simply says a flat 35 mils, 135 mils, 135 cc's. The earlier manual says 120 to 130 mils after draining, or 130 to 140 mils cc's, same thing, after a dry rebuild. Well, Barney's front mudguard, the front fender, was in bad shape. It had been welded heaps of times, and look at the state of it. So I decided to swap that. But let's have a look at the different mudguards over the years and how they vary. Well, this earlier one, it's got the rubbing strip there for the speedo cable to rub against. But looking at the later one, the 12 volt bike we call it, with the higher mounted speedo, you can see there's no rubbing strip there. There's this wire cable guide there, and also the colour is slightly different. It's a deeper red. It's Monza red. The earlier bikes are a slightly more orange tinge. They're Tahitian red. So 12 volt bike with a higher mounted speedo. And now we've got this last one. This is off a 1985 ex-Australia Post bike. It had the stencil of the tyre pressure on there, which I've removed. But the difference between this one and the earlier Barney's one is the size of the holes in there, because these later ones, they're rubber mounted. We still have the same, I think they're M6, aren't they, bolts? But there's this small spacer with a rubber washer fits on there, rubber mounts the mudguard, and that's probably what stops all this happening, all this cracking and breaking on there. So this is the mudguard I want to fit onto Barney. And the torque settings, this top bolt 29 to 40 foot-pounds, the pinch bolt 22 to 29 foot-pounds, and the axle nut 36 to 43 foot-pounds. Well, that's the forks complete on Barney, and also most of the mechanical work, or virtually all of it now, is finished. Just a few things to do: sort out the electrics, and also some cosmetic work, some welding on the rear fender, the rear mudguard. And today, I don't know, it was a strange day today. I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe I'm getting old and a bit dopey, but I did things wrong, lost bolts, lost spacers. It was a bit of a strange day. If you get some value out of the videos, consider subscribing. It's free. You won't miss out on any future content, and I'll see you again soon in the next video. Proud Dad Elvis, aren't you? Yeah. Not got much to say today.